Ready.
Hi guys, Alex Lightspeed here, and welcome to a really special video series that we're starting. I'm here today with the Fieroline racing team, and we're here to talk about their journey to their 24-hour race later this season and what it's going to take to get to that point. So let's just get right into it, and I'm going to introduce the team and we'll start learning all about what it takes to race a Fiero. So, like many things, racing in a series like this is a team effort, and these guys are very focused on working together and collaborating to make that happen. I want to first introduce the owner of the vehicle, Damian. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and then what you guys do on the team, starting with you and then moving to the left?
So my name's Damian Donesky. I co-own the car with my father-in-law. We started building it several years ago and just sort of never stopped. I'm a product designer by day and a race car driver by night.
That sounds amazing. And you race with your wife?
I do. My wife, Katey. Go for it.
Well, I'm Katey. I'm a nurse by trade, and I got dragged into this racing game courtesy of Mr. Donesky here, my husband. I'm the crew chief, so that sort of means organizing our pit stops, doing a lot of timing consideration with when to do the pit stops, who's doing what, making sure all of the roles are covered for preparation for the next go-round.
So Kevin, you've known Damian for a super long time, and you are also part of the team with your wife. What you can tell us a little bit more about yourself?
So I'm Kevin, and Damian and I have known each other since 7th grade, which was a long time ago. We won't say how long. Yeah, I'm a driver on the team, and when I heard about them starting up this project, I definitely wanted to be involved. I also do a lot of video editing. We make highlight videos, and so I put those together from our GoPro shots and stuff, and post them to YouTube. So.
And you race with your wife?
Yeah, I race with my wife. This is Emily, and you can introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Emily, and I am a middle school teacher. And I just joined the team, it's been 4 years ago helping, but then just in the last year I've actually started driving. So I help Katey out with whatever needs to happen, with organizing people and making sure pit stops happen and people have food and they're happy and...
We're the brains behind the brawn.
It's true.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Is that consistent with how you were helping before you started being a driver?
Yes, so I started helping right from the beginning and just trying to help as much as I could, and then eventually these guys let me actually start driving.
We had to make sure she was going to be able to hold her own out there.
Have you guys been pretty satisfied with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah.
I mean, the car's still in one piece, so.
Yeah.
No, Emily's done amazing.
So it wouldn't be racing without a car, and you guys have this monstrosity behind me. What is this?
Well, that's a good question. Miss Fioroline's a very important part of our team. Without her, none of this would be possible. She's a 1986 Pontiac Fiero SE that we bought for this purpose in 2012. We were going to turn her into a race car and have had far more success than we anticipated.
What's the drivetrain on it?
So we kept the 60-degree V6. I'm a glutton for punishment, and that seemed like a good option. But we're running a 3400 GM minivan engine, block with iron heads. I do all the tuning. Suspension is primarily 86 Fiero.
So at the heart, this is not a tube chassis. This is a modified Fiero, like genuinely.
Correct. It retains the entire space frame. We've caged it per the rules of the race series. Lighten things as much as we can. We've done a little bit of aero. The body is primarily stock, and it's just evolved a lot since we started.
I see you liking to learn as you go, and then you make modifications based on your experiences at the track.
Absolutely, yeah. Primarily what we break.
What breaks?
Yeah.
What breaks?
Oh, okay,
That's
okay.
That thing.
There's a lot of experiences and learnings we've had, and a lot of late night wrenching sessions between races.
Well, when you race a 1980s car, 30, 40 years later, things are bound to maybe break. So you experience that a little bit along the way when you're racing, and you have to be creative and come up with solutions to break the ancientness.
Well, absolutely, and we're doing things with this car that GM never designed it to do. They didn't anticipate the kind of stress we would put it under, and therefore, parts of the car are just not up to the task.
The innovation and the figuring out how to solve the problem is a lot of the fun for you, or part of the fun?
It absolutely is for me. I like solving problems. I took this car on as a challenge, knowing that it probably wasn't the most ideal car in the world for what we wanted to do with it, and take great pride in what I am able to do with it. We've learned to anticipate a lot of stuff, because we don't want to show up to the track and wrench on the car all day. We want to show up to the track and race and hopefully win.
So initially you took the car out and it was much closer to stock. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? You learned what to modify based on what broke?
Yeah, we started with a stock Fiero 2.8 liter V6 with 120,000 miles on it and an unknown history, with a factory 4-speed. We raced that for a couple of seasons, and actually we learned a lot with that configuration, because we were a new team. We didn't know what we were doing. We wouldn't have been well served with the car we have today 4 years ago. And so we were able to grow with the car. It was possibly its most reliable in those early years. It wasn't, once we started modifying it, we started finding all sorts of other issues.
So you've told me in the background that this season you have to make a lot of changes in the car to prepare for a special race. What race are you guys preparing for, and what makes it different than other races that you've done?
So we are running our very first 24-hour race this season at the end of July. It's going to be at Oregon Raceway Park, and previous to now, the longest we've ever ran was 13 hours. So 24 is going to be a big deal.
Separated 13 hours, not 13 hours straight.
No, it was 13 hours
Was
straight.
it really?
Yeah, Portland.
Oh,
Yeah, we
was
did
it?
one
In
from
Chump
like
Car.
9 a.m. to 10
Oh,
p.m.
yeah.
a long time ago.
Oh, man.
So this
Yeah.
race will be 24 hours. We'll start one day and we'll end the next day. And we're hoping to run the whole time, and we're hoping to get on the podium and maybe even bring home a win.
What is going to be required to make that happen?
I feel like there's going to be a lot of planning. We need to do a lot of work to try to, plan out exactly who's going to be driving when.
A lot of logistics.
A lot of logistics, getting food, getting the car prepped, ready to go, and
Even scheduling when people are going to sleep.
yeah, coming down to that, because if we're not well rested, you're not going to drive optimally, and so you could make mistakes easier, and so that's something that's important as well.
Well, and over the course of the race, we're going to make 12 pit stops.
At least.
At
minimum.
least.
12, that's a
Yeah,
minimum,
hopefully about 12,
you
but
know,
not much more.
Possibly a tire change. All of these things are opportunities to screw up.
Yeah.
And so every time the car comes in, not only can a lot of stuff go wrong on track, but every time the car comes in, it could be a delay. We could not be ready, and so our team's gonna have to perform perfectly for 24 hours to make sure all of our pit stops are optimal. We don't lose any time in the pits, and we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
All those things are very interesting things I wouldn't have thought of. I doubt the viewers would have thought of, as far as, what are the logistics of running a race for 24 hours. I know that, a lot of people are into the, 24-hour bigger races, but a lot of us have never seen those as well. Yeah. So that, just thinking about when is somebody going to sleep, or what is somebody going to eat, like those are things that wouldn't have even crossed my mind as somebody who doesn't do endurance racing.
And another thing that's interesting about the place we're going to race at, it's called Oregon Raceway Park. It's in kind of north central Oregon. Is that the nearest gas station is 30 miles away. So, like, how do you get your gas from there? Yeah, we've got a fuel barrel, but 55 gallons is not going to cut it for 24 hours. So we got to figure out, okay, how do we get more gas there? Yeah. So that's just another thing to think about. And
the whole time, all I was thinking about is like what needs to be done to this car, what changes are going to be done to this car. And I don't think you haven't said anything about the car. It's all about what you're going to do to.
It's because we're so we have this time. We're so confident that Damian has the skills to be able to get the car ready.
That's scary.
Because he can. He's done it before.
The car needs some changes this season. That's part of what the story is about. That's part of what we're going to cover here in the series. So, what are your plans to change on the car to make you competitive in this series, this 24-hour series?
That's a good question.
I think the first major change is the series that we're racing in currently allows us to go for 2 hours at a time before you're required to switch drivers. Currently, the fuel tank in our car will not allow us to go that length of time. So the major change to prepare for our 24-hour race this summer is to modify our fuel tank and allow us to have more fuel on the car while we're driving, so we can complete the 2 hours of drive time and have more efficient race days, which will allow us to have less pit stops, which means more time on track.
Yeah. And so that's the primary change. We're also going to be making a bunch of changes to the suspension to try to even out our handling a little bit. The car handles really well. It's very solid, but the shocks and struts options that we have available to us as Fiero enthusiasts are pretty poor, and we're just at the point where we're unable to control the spring rates we want to run. And so I'm working with a local supplier to put together a shock and strut package that will get us to the next level, reliability wise, handling wise, and just allow us to be that much more solid in the corners with the car. We also are tearing the rear chassis of the car apart currently. The strut hats are inverting themselves. Maybe we can take a look at that a little bit later. But
you know what I have some criticism about for you. I was looking at the stock Fiero struts because I just dropped a cradle the other day, and they have big metal plates that sit underneath these, and I'm like, so you removed this additional structure that the factory thought would evenly distribute this, and now you're like,
the stock spring is like this big.
Yeah,
so
but
all of the force is at the perimeter.
Right.
The spring is like that big.
The plate, though, the plate could just go right underneath this. You've chosen.
The plate distributes that load nicely.
Right. And you've chosen to not run it, and now it does.
My car doesn't have this problem, and I have the plate in there. So.
Right. Yeah. I'm just saying. I know your secret that you didn't use the plate, and you're blaming on the Fiero. And I was like, you didn't even use the factory tooling that they gave you that they thought was necessary for grandma driving.
I'm not blaming on anything. I'm just saying we have to fix it.
It is pretty obnoxiously bulgy. You're like, oh man, I know that it might not come on camera, but I can definitely see that. I think that you could use the plate now, and it would still help you.
I'm just gonna re-engineer it.
I know you are gonna make it complicated, but Justin's car is gonna continue to not bulge because he's chosen to use the plate. You know.
This car has other issues.
Oh, bringing up the other issues. That's a low blow.
Right in my feels.
A big driver of the suspension rebuild is to reinforce the rear suspension pickup points on the car and prevent it from pulling itself apart anymore. It takes a lot of abuse. Some of the tracks we race at have a lot of elevation change, and you're just constantly hammering the car, and that's absolutely showing its
This
toll.
is where we're finding a weakness, and again, Damian's like crafty master fabricator along with my dad. They can help figure out a way to solve that so there's no catastrophic disaster.
Which is
Exactly.
a good direction to go.
It is. And there's some other minor little things. Try to take some weight out of the car, a new dash setup, but the suspension and the fuel cell are definitely the big ones.
Well,
I kind of think we're gonna run a pipe fork right up here to the
So
hood.
would we have to open the hood to do that, or you would just
I'll open
take
it up.
this?
I won't be exactly like that.
Well, yeah, but-
there'll be a hole in the hood with a cap,
Okay.
and that'll just be that. That's kind of how the Porsche race works.
Porsche.
Porsche.
Oh, well, see, Justin, I'm from the South. And in the South, you don't say Porsche. It's a Porsche.
Yeah.
And then this guy gets on to me. I literally had never heard anyone say Porsche until Kevin started saying it. I was like, this guy is an idiot. Why is he saying this?
I am the village
Turns
idiot.
out I'm the idiot. That's the real truth.
You might improve one link, and then that makes the next link the weakest link. Well, we got to the point where using like bigger rims and taller tires adds and increasing your lateral G's adds so much stress on the hubs that it will actually crack the flanges off. So we've failed about 5 different hub flanges. Not the bearing itself. The bearing was fine. The hub flange just like broke off. We actually have some over there that we've broken.
so this is what happened when I was driving once. It broke apart, and the wheel came off.
You really should be more careful.
Yeah, I know. I really just need to tone down my workout routine. Like, I'm really strong.
All right, when can I steal Justin? Is he available for that?
You're welcome. You're
Wait.
welcome to steal him anymore.
I
don't need him anymore.
you don't need, he doesn't need you anymore, so we're gonna go to the couch.
Okay.
All right. Not like that, okay? It's not a casting call. Don't get fired. Oh, shit.
Hey, you know my rate.
All the stools are gone. I don't want to sit right next to you. I mean, I don't mind. Well, Jesus. We had a latecomer arrive, introducing Justin here. He's going to be driving with the Fieroline team this season for the 24-hour race. Is that right?
This is true.
The rumors are true. What's going to be your role in the team, and what do you do as a day job?
During the week, I am a technology specialist with a school district, so I manage a huge number of electronic devices in a middle school, anywhere from iMacs to iPads, printers, student accounts, you name it. As far as coming into this team, I hope to bring with me my expertise of running my own Fiero team for 10 years now, my skill as a driver and knowledge of the car to hopefully try to maximize our results as best as possible.
How do you get the experience in racing?
I've been very interested in watching racing, starting out on TV as a wee little guy, and then growing older, I had the opportunity to get taken to a number of different kind of forms of racing, typically at Portland International Raceway for my grandparents and then my dad. And in 2009, I was lucky enough to attend the first ever Chump Car World Series race that was held in October of 2009 at Portland International Raceway. And that's definitely what got me hooked. That was the impetus to actually found my own team, get a car, and go racing myself.
You also have a great deal of knowledge and background in Fiero specifically, and in general. You've owned a few Fieros, that is?
Yes, my dad, I would say, is the biggest influence in me getting into this. He bought his daily driver new in 1985 and has continued to use it as his daily driver ever since. He and I got super involved in doing Fiero stuff together sort of around 2007, 2008 by attending different Fiero shows. We went to Northwest Fiero Fest together one year, and that same summer took a road trip to Michigan and back, driving his Fiero to the 25th anniversary show. And it was at that point that I got the bug to get my own. And so I've had my daily driver 86 SE since September of 2008. Bought the Racecar November of 2009, and have had a couple of different parts cars over the years as well. So currently a 3 Fiero family, but have had 2 others come and go over the years.
I think a lot of us have had that experience with a few Fieros coming and going. They're not quite totally accepted into our hearts, but we're glad they're there.
Yeah.
You know, for the time that we've spent with them. It sounds like you have a lot of knowledge about Fiero history. Do you know anything about the history of Fieros in motorsport?
Sure. Fieros were pretty well involved in a couple of different classes in IMSA racing in the 80s. GM was interested in promoting the Fiero in a number of different ways, and one way that they determined that would be effective in getting out that sort of performance image of the Fiero was to provide support to a number of teams in 2 different classes of IMSA racing starting in 1984. Fieros raced in IMSA in 2 different classes: the GTU class, Grand Touring under 2.5 liters, and the GTO class, which is Grand Touring over 2.5 liters. And there were 2 notable teams that ran Fieros in that era. First one that was very heavily factory backed was Huffaker Racing, based out of California. They ran a number of different interesting paint schemes, or liveries if you will, over the years on notchback and fastback Fieros. And then another notable team that ran in IMSA in that time frame was Dingman Brothers Racing. They primarily focused on the GTO class, and they were more known for one specific design of car. They tended to run later on.
Okay. You've kind of talked a little bit about some of these famous Fiero race cars, and you still call them liveries, they're paint schemes. What was that specifically?
A livery is essentially the way the vehicle looks externally, as far as its collection of paint and design, decals, coming together to sort of form a cohesive appearance package, what the car gets known by. In the case of Huffaker Racing, they started off with primarily yellow paint. They ran 2 different paint schemes, starting out earlier on in their program with yellow paint. The first one would have been sponsored by Dole Fruit, kind of an odd racing sponsor. The other yellow paint scheme they were known for was STP, and the car had the phrase "son of a gun" on it. So that's, I don't know how that came into marketing as far as using that terminology, but that was sort of what they were known as in that time frame. And then starting in 1986, they moved to a primarily black and white scheme, sort of split by that rub strip in the middle of the Fiero, to correlate with their Good Wrench performance parts sponsorship. That's the livery that I decided to recreate on my race car to pay tribute to the Huffaker IMSA Fieros that ran in 1986. The other notable team, Dingman Brothers Racing, was typically known for having a primarily white and blue paint scheme to go along with their Valvoline sponsorship. And their iconic liveries, that Valvoline one, in one form or another, is still used today, even in NASCAR and other series, pretty much exactly as it appeared on that Fiero in that time frame. That paint scheme is what Damian and the Fieroline team have leaned on to pay tribute with their car.
Both of your paint schemes or liveries really set your cars apart when they're going down the racetrack as something that's very interesting. It's iconic and it's period correct for the type of car that they are, which is, it's a really cool thing to see, because you may not ever be able to see those actual race cars that raced at the time, but seeing something very similar can invoke similar feelings now, and hearing it roar down the racetrack is close second to being there back in the day, I would say.
Yeah, and I mentioned being able to go to the 25th show in Pontiac, and was lucky enough to be able to see the then owned by GM Huffaker Racing IMSA Fiero.
Oh yeah.
That definitely left an impression on me. That was the biggest reason that I wanted to recreate that and sort of pay tribute to that program. Getting to see it up close, getting to hear it run, and sort of having that dream of what it would be like to be able to run one of those cars. And it's really fun to go back and look at pictures of that era and see those cars racing on some of the same tracks that we get to race on now. In no official manner, continue that tradition of racing Fieros and trying to strive for success.
It's very living in the moment. Those moments you're on the track behind that wheel, and it's just you and the car and the pavement and like your own personal engineering. I think that Damian's expressed that a lot tonight about his love for the engineering of man and machine and problem solving that goes in.
Definitely. I think that's one of the most interesting aspects of this series and this style of racing for me is when we set out to do this, it wasn't necessarily that we were trying to find the easiest way to go and achieve success in racing. We wanted to find a way that we were most familiar with so that if things did go wrong, that we would be best prepared to handle those adversities, but also find a way to go and do this with the most fun possible. And I think a Fiero definitely checks both of those boxes. Putting it into situations that GM engineers never would have accounted for. The racetrack is an incredibly brutal experience for a car. So always finding what the next problem is, and very often we sort of parts bin dive the way that GM engineers did with the Fiero originally. I mean, as one example, we use Cavalier hubs on the back now that are very nearly a drop-in interchange. They tend to be a lot stronger, and you can still get new GM parts for those. Finding an entire catalog of newer parts that do their job better or more efficiently or save weight is always a fun endeavor to try to make the car better with as little effort as possible.
Well, once you engineer a part to adapt a newer or stronger parts bin part, as you called it, then if you have a breakdown on the track, it's still something that you can go and possibly get locally and drop in and then get back on the racetrack, and that sounds like it's pretty important in this field.
Oh, for sure. Anytime you can save either by not braking or being able to effect a repair as quickly as possible is going to be a direct result to your success on track.
It's going to be an exciting series, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And I'm thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, this has been super great, guys, to learn a little bit about the team. Guys,
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. You guys are going to start working on the car tonight, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
tonight.
That's great. Well, let's get started with that. It was great to sit down with you guys all together.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be a
Thanks,
part of
Alex.
it. Thank you for letting me into to your little world here. Do not break race car. Oh no.
Oh, that scared me.
I didn't break it. Hey, at least the animal isn't gonna scratch it.
Yeah.
He took his pants off.
In all of its milled and drilled glory.
Much Fiero exposed.